Alright guys, today I want to go over another common area I see for the cause of a P0171 P0174 bank 1 and 2 lean on the Ford Explorers that had the 4.0 liter SOHC engines in them. This one, if you remember, you seen my last video, I put the PCV tube on it. That was a month or two ago. Checked it out afterwards, no problems, no with the fuel trims, perfectly normal, 6-7%, and of course we saw the tube was split in half from the oil being soaked and it caving in. It's a very common issue on these. There isn't many other common issues on these to cause lean codes except for the one I'm about to show you. Now I got to thinking, it's got a check engine light on, it's been gone for a while, we knew the fuel trims were just fine when it left. That PCV tube is definitely sucked in. How could it have lean codes again? The intake seals on these aren't too common. They do happen, but they're not too common. That's only going to happen when it's cold out. Yeah, it did get ultra cold out, but I still don't think it's the issue. I looked at the mileage, and I looked up here at the sticker, and guess what? They just had an oil change, and I knew exactly what it was immediately. I just had to verify it. Now the problem is, they went over here, they checked the air filter as part of the oil change service, and they left the tube, which usually slips right out of here. They picked this up, they're checking the air filter, everything looks okay, and these tubes for the ventilation and for the PCV system, they fall right out all the time on here. And on one of the other models, there's actually two of them. There's one here, there's one up here, or right next to each other, one of the two, and those ones, same thing, they fall out all the time. And this, no big deal. It doesn't really create a problem. The problem is, as the air rushes past here, Venturi effect. It's picking up air and bring it in. Any kind of air leak after the mass airflow sensor is unmetered air. Therefore, the engine's getting more air than what it thinks it's getting. Because the only way it knows is by this sensor. So anything after this, a leak in this intake tube, a vacuum leak in the intake, a vacuum hose off the intake, anything after the mass airflow, and it will incorrectly meter the air and cause lean codes. Alright, so I'm not going to get too technical with this video. I just want to show you how the PCM reacts once I plug that tube back in. Right now it's disconnected. You can see our short-term fuel trims right here. They're switching right around 0. That's perfectly normal. Our O2s are switching. It's perfect. Mass airflow, it's 0.8, that's about perfect. 0.7, 0.8 is good on there. Our long terms are a little high. They're not too bad, but I obviously went to 15% or higher at some point to set that code. Up here, our barrel, it's really low. It's 141. It should be 158 for our area here. We're about 600 feet above sea level. So this is way off, and that affects the air fuel calculations also, because this is basically, the only thing this thing's telling the PCM is where the vehicle's at as far as it's on top of a mountain, where there's less dense air, or is it down by sea level where there's the most dense air. So it needs that calculation to be correct too, and it infers the barrel on almost all the vehicles except for a few of them on the Super Duties and stuff like that. Almost all Ford vehicles infer the barrel based off the mass airflow reading being correct. So you can see how far off the fuel trims can get just by having that little hose off of there. So I'm going to plug it in right now, and you can watch the O2 sensors, both of them, bank 1 and bank 2, they're going to go high in the voltage, and that means it's running rich. And then from there on out, it'll start changing, it'll correct the fuel to get it back where it can start switching again, right? And you'll see these numbers drop. Once these drop first, it'll start correcting these later. And I'm going to plug it in now. I just plugged it in, and you can see right here, see when they went rich like that? First thing that's going to happen is the short terms are going to react, and then it's going to set the long terms. And it'll keep going down. It's going to be slow to react at first. That's why when you do this, you find the fault. The engine's running great now. You want to do a PCM reset, and it'll learn from there, and I'll show you how that looks. Because that'll also reset the barrel, to a box stock setting of 149. So we're going to do that now. We're going to reset the fuel trims back to 0, long term and short term, and of course that barrel back to 149. Alright, there we go. We got all the fuel trims back to 0, so we can start off fresh. And the barrel up here is at 149, the base stock reset setting on there, and therefore it can learn from there fresh with the correct barrel. And it'll automatically update to the 156, 158 for our area. But if you don't do this, it's going to take forever, especially that barrel, to update. And you have to do a couple of full wide open throttle driving to actually update it. So it takes a long time. The best way to do it is to reset the PCM while the engine's off, and we can start fresh with an idle. And we'll see how it looks now. And you'll see from here on out, these fuel trims should be below 10%. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8%, depending on the age of the vehicle, is just fine. And already, because we're heated up, our O2s are switching. And the thing to note here is that our long terms are at 0, perfect. Short term, 6, 7, 8, 9%, and switching. And our O2s switching, which means there's no need for any further fuel calculations, corrections, because where it's at right now is making an O2 switch. And that is just how simple it can be to diagnose a drivability concern, a check engine light concern, a lean code concern.